In this section, we're going to look at how you might plan a lesson, or at least begin to. The best place to start is the student book. So let's have a look. We're going to think about planning a lesson on addition using number bonds. Here we go in the content section. You'll see that starts on page 54 of the student book. Let's find page 54 of the student book. With students this age, sometimes it's actually quite useful to ask them to do it. It's a real way of building number sense. It's a way of assessing whether they can sequence. But let's assume we've got it. And you'll see, here's the title, the heading, addition using number bonds. And at the beginning, you'll see what's known as an anchor task. Let's learn together. Now, this is in the form of a story. As you can see, really clear visual graphics and linguistics, and also really importantly, this image, this model we're going to talk quite a bit about. So have a look at what the children are going to have to do. There's 3 lions, 1 tiger, and then there's the part whole model, very, very thoroughly explained as we go through the book. And then it takes it and puts it into the abstract form, and then really, really importantly, in a language form. So that's that. Now, that might be too easy for children, so I might want to extend that anchor task a bit. So when I'm planning, I want to have a really good grip of what's coming. You can see that we've got on the next page a very similar story, number bonds to 10, and quite quickly we moved into children, hats, balls. You don't have to do all of these, but now look, suddenly we have a diagram that looks a little different. So it's really worth spending time when you plan thinking about how you might extend that anchor task should children require it, how you might get them challenged. So now let's go back. And the next thing I want to show you is once you've had a good read through the kind of tasks that the children are likely to be doing, the next thing to do is to turn to the teacher guide. And again, the teacher guide, very similar format. So let's have a little look. Here we go, exactly the same headings, exactly the same subheadings. Addition using number bonds is on page 21 of the teacher guide. Here we are. And you'll notice this doesn't look the same, but it has suggested class activities. It has the kind of equipment you might want. Now, in fact, you're free to choose the most appropriate equipment for any particular task. Always worth starting with some sort of equipment. So, for example, for the lesson here, I just use this laminated card where I can write parts or wholes. Better still, use cubes. And I can show that there are 2 here and 1 here. Just a slight word of caution. It's very important if you want to say the total is 3, that you don't make the mistake of putting 3 on there, because actually the whole thing is about the story of 3. So you need to slide these 3. So these are the 2 parts and this is the whole. And then it literally breaks it down for children. Now there are 2 different types of cubes. Let me just move this aside for a moment. These ones, which are often called unifix, you'll notice that just one of the edges has a bit sticking out and one has a gap. They can only join together in one direction. And actually for the vast majority of the mathematics in Max Maths, you'll see that that is all that's needed. When children get into stage 3, 4, 5, and 6, sometimes they might benefit from using cubes like these. These are often called multi-link cubes because on every single face, you can join them, and you can join them in 3 different dimensions, which is very useful when we're thinking about tasks, topics such as volume and so on in 3-dimensional shape. So just a mention for that. So anyway, in stage 1 and 2, these are the ideal type. So let's now return to the teacher guide. It's worth remembering that in the teacher guide, you won't see exactly what you see in the pupil book, just segments. Now, you see suggested class activity, and this is actually important. It is suggested. And in fact, you can take the suggestions and either use them, these number bond cards that you see, you'll find at the back. So this one says RS122. And in fact, if you look at the back, you will find, there it is, a whole range of these sheets. They're very easy to find because they are all numbered and they tie back to the teacher guide. So it's not a difficult process. So find one. These are freely photocopyable. And you can see there's a number of blank grids that we're going to be using for the task. But it is only a suggested activity. And in fact, when I worked with a class on this, we decided just to do it slightly differently. And that's fine. That's the teacher discretion, but it's there. It's all laid out if we want to do it this way. Why not try it? If you have a better idea, that's also okay. So give them numbers to fill. And again, looking at this, I've decided that dice would be a good way. The reason is there are a number of options, but dice creates an independence. It also allows for some differentiation. So standard dice here are numbered 1 to 6, but should children, in your opinion, need a bit of challenge and stretch, why not use one of these types of dice? So this has actually got 10 sides, numbered 0 to 9. You can get 20-sided dice. I'm not suggesting you do, but it's worth saying that differentiation is not a difficult thing to do. And we'll talk more about that in another section. All right. Now, it's worth, as you read through this, looking for the equivalent pages in the student guide. So we've seen a few of these already. Let's have a look. Once we've gone through the stories, we start to see this idea of number bonds. And I want to talk to you now about this section, which is called Let's Try It.